Though he was a speculative builder, he was a romantic and an architect. People came to Bath to take the water. The baths were Roman in origin, and Wood decided to build a new Rome here in Britain. That abbey there seemed dull and new. He'd designed a Roman palace, such as he'd seen in Grosvenor Square. There's his design for Queen Square, Bath. It looks like a huge country house, but when you come to look closely, you'll see a whole row of front doors along the ground floor story. Queen Square, Bath, must be the first terrace in the world built to look like a single house. And this is Wood's South Parade, Bath. It was meant to look on a Roman forum. Wood had never been to Rome, but he'd seen old prints of it, and he wanted to build a forum in Bath. But this dream was never realized. The houses he designed look instead onto a car park and empty space. But another dream was realized. Up the hill from Queen Square, John Wood was going to have a Roman Colosseum from which the invalids who came to Bath would be able to watch performing animals. But when he came to build it, it was much smaller than the original one in Rome, as you can see in that comparative drawing. And it was turned inside out and made into a circle of houses. And indeed, it was the first circle of houses of its kind in the world. There it is, the Circus at Bath by John Wood Sr., and finished by his son John Wood Jr. in 1754. I can hear the developer's voice in my ear saying, "It's very monotonous. I grant you that for its time the circus was quite a daring innovation, but today we've got to consider the teenagers. I mean, an enterprising corporation could have made a motorbike track here and a much-needed car park where we're standing, and there was no need to repair those houses in the old-fashioned style." So you think. But Bath was copied, the circus at Bath was copied in London and all over the world. Piccadilly Circus, Oxford Circus, they are the origin of the traffic roundabout. John Wood Jr. was as great a man as his father. He designed the assembly rooms. But come and see his most exciting achievement. High up on a sunny slope, above the stuffy hollow of the city, he stretched out half his father's circus into an ellipse, and he called it the Royal Crescent, Bath, the first crescent ever built, 1767. Notice the correct oblong panes in the windows. It set a fashion, Royal Crescent did. Buxton had one, Brighton had a humbler one, but my favourite is Lansdowne Crescent, Bath, by Palmer, 1789. It's very plain. Ironwork instead of carved stone is used for decoration. Notice its delicate design against the sky. Well, Mr. Betjeman, it serves no useful purpose today. And you don't consider the cost of repainting that, I suppose, what it costs the ratepayers. Notice the curve as Lansdowne Crescent turns in an S bend to Somerset Place. These plain crescents, high above Bath, were among the last to be built. I like them best of all. They depend on proportion. But people were getting tired of living in crescents, and they wanted to live in Bath permanently and have houses of their own. The Englishman's house is his castle, or in this case, on Bathwick Hill, a Greek villa of about 1830. And next to it, there's an Italian palace of about 1840. And if he couldn't afford that, he could at any rate have half a house in this charming semi-detached row of early Victorian houses near Prior Park. They're very plain, but they depend entirely for their effect on proportion. As in those two houses there, do you see how the window panes on the right give scale to the building, and on the left, where plate glass has been put in, the house looks blind and bombed. At the end of the road, do you notice a falling off? I can't say I do. I like those houses beyond. I like to see bold exterior plumbing, as on this new estate at Twerton. I mean, compare it with this Georgian you so much admire, Mr. Betjeman, in this back garden here. It's very dull, this. I'm glad to see that the advertising profession at this particular place has taken the opportunity to enliven the monotony with a bright note of health-giving products, showing our modern civilization and the brightness that we so vitally need here in Bath, or you might need here in Bath. On that corner, for instance, there's something really worth looking at. As a Londoner, I like to see a new building in an old setting, as here in your new tech, where the monotony of one side has been relieved very cleverly by a little projecting window. Today, building must express itself honestly and sincerely, as for instance in this feature, which might be termed the vital buttocks of the construction. As you can see, it expresses its purpose, whatever that may be, sincerely, and this causes it to blend harmoniously and naturally with the Georgian on the left there. Each age should express itself as it really feels, and you can see how this age feels about Georgian. Well, I suppose you may be right. You must know what you're talking about, as you make such a lot of money as a developer. But come with me and look at a bit of development which was never finished. Camden Crescent, Bath, 1788. And if you stand by the old buildings opposite, you can look down into the valley. Well, I can't say I'm surprised it wasn't a success. You've only got to look down in the valley here to see how people ought to be housed. And you can see, too, that they've had amenities supplied, Dame Nature, wildlife, silviculture, just as in front of the Royal Crescent, the same kind of thing. Well, if you think, and there is the Royal Crescent, that there's any similarity between this and what we've just seen, you must be stupid and also malevolent. There's no cause to be offensive, Mr. Betjeman. I don't like the Royal Crescent, and what's more, neither you nor I have to live in it. I mean, think about Bath practically. Look at those balconies. They may be Georgian somewhere or other, but you couldn't put a kiddie's pram in them. Whereas, if you compare that with these new flats, well, a housewife could put a pram there, and I would emphasize to you that this is the age of the housewife. She has everything she requires. Everything must be hygienically packaged and temptingly displayed to the housewife. I look forward to the day when my company has razed Georgian Bath to the ground and has produced plans that will astonish the world with their beauty, boldness and enterprise. I'm glad to see it started already, and also considerably to the profit of my company, and at the same time benefiting the human race.